Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Look at this. Craig Burley, Shaka Hirsel and Stevie Nicol all in the studio. We'll kick things off with something we discussed yesterday. In case you missed it, two Dutch legends not pulling any punches, talking about Van Dijk's performance against France and overall in an international shirt of late. This is what Marco van Basten had to say. He's not clear. A good captain thinks aloud, makes it clear what is going on. He stays in between, he creates chaos. There is nothing to do with that injury. This has to do with leadership. He makes noise, but he says nothing that's true. This is in you. This is wanting to win at all costs. Ruud Gullit then doubled down on that view, saying Virgil van Dijk should lead the play on the ball, but no. In the game against France, he passes it sideways. So Gertrude, you do it. He doesn't take any responsibility on the ball. He plays so secure, so safe. He's part of the team of the year, right? He got his nice award, right? Then show yourself to us if you're still worth it. Everyone believes he still is, but I don't. Virgil van Dijk responded to this criticism saying this is all noise, this is of no use to me. Everyone is allowed to have their own opinion these days. That's the case. Let's welcome in, shall we? Ian's with us, but forgive me, Ian, I'm going to start with former Dutch international Mario Melchior is with us. Mario, what's wrong with your lot? Why are they being so mean?
Oh, look. They just give their opinion. I know both of them because, and both of them are guys that are more Amsterdam-based, and we know how it works, right? When you come from a capital, you speak out a little slightly different. Virgil is from down south. He's like, the way he speaks as well, the way he responds to the criticism that they gave him, he was very diplomatic and, and spoke really well. He doesn't want to have a go at them because there's a kind of, the Dutch icons, Van Basten and Gullit, clearly. And what they said they want more responsibility of him because he's the captain of the national team. I think that is the biggest focus we have to have. Why? Because the team is not as stable as we would like it to be. And I think that is the biggest question and the biggest thing we have to answer because that is what the responsibility has been put on Van Dijk. And sometimes they feel like he hides away from it. And that is the biggest one. I saw a little piece in the English report that said arrogance. He didn't know. They didn't. One person mentioned that, but it was none of them to say that.
What do you think, Craig? It doesn't seem particularly helpful.
I don't think they're bothered about being helpful.
Yeah.
I watched you boys yesterday, and it makes even less sense today, particularly Van Basten's statement, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's just utter nonsense. These are the two guys that, when Gullit was managing Chelsea, got his mate Van Basten in, whose career was over because of his ankle, and they biffed David Rocastle to go and play with the reserves. David Rocastle, who had won titles, was one of the best midfielders in England at the time, is no longer with us. That tells you all you need to know about. And the other pros were like, you doing that? So they don't care. They don't care. They're arrogant. And look, Stevie mentioned it yesterday, he's not been at his best. And maybe he does need to take a bit more leadership or whatever. But that's just, there's analysis and then there's character assassination.
Yes.
And I think that's the latter.
That's the thing, Mario. Yeah. It seems personal.
Yeah, but what Craig just said, I'm not a fan of that. You know why? Because I feel like the guy's having a go at him. But look, he comes at Liverpool. The team is not playing great, right? So his confidence, they were talking about his confidence, is not going to be skyrocketing when he came from Liverpool when they were winning so much. That's kind of normal because we talk about those games a lot ourselves. So that's one. And then it comes down to the national team of Holland. The national team of Holland, he has a lot of young boys. Geertruiden made his debut, coming from Feyenoord because the leaders in the league at the moment. So coming from Feyenoord is a tricky moment. Timber, the one from Ajax, that normally you understand that Ajax is playing the fluential, the way we are built, the way we play football. His way of playing is they want him to go more forward, take more risk. But I always said that before. Sometimes we also have to understand we are a small nation. But we like to look at Barcelona. We love to look at Brazil, all those kind of nations. But guys, come on. Sometimes we also have to say to ourselves, you don't have a better player than Van Dijk at the moment. So it's not like they can say like, oh, we're going to pick somebody else in Holland and select another player that's going to give us more than Van Dijk can give us. No. And with that, yes, I don't agree with that part because he is clearly still now the defenders are coming in the team now want to play with him, and it's not the other way around.
Ian, are you surprised how scathing these attacks have been?
No, not at all surprised, because one thing I've learned about Dutch footballers and Dutch football is they're hard-hitting and they say what they think. It sometimes causes them problems in camp on the way to World Cups. I'm sure Mario will understand it perfectly, but let's get it right. Virgil van Dijk has been one of the greatest defenders in Europe in recent seasons, if not the very best. OK, since his injury, he maybe have lost half a yard of pace, but you know, just recently, since he came back in the Liverpool team, I think I'm right in saying, I checked it before I came on air, they've conceded only 1 goal in the last 6 Premier League games. So he's still very, very good. But I don't know. I don't play with him. I don't know what kind of leader he is. That's something that perhaps is from the inside of the Dutch camp.
And you mentioned it yesterday. Strangely enough, no mention of the manager.
Well, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No mention of somebody who might be a more difficult target because of the era that they played in and played with them. I mean, look,
they had to go at him too, though, Greg. They had to go at him too for the system he's playing. Yeah,
because everyone.
Because you know what the thing they said, like, you know, the system they were playing before was like 3-4-3 when, you know, with Van Gaal. So he changed it. He came out at the start when he took the job. He said, no, we're going to change it. We're going to play 4-3-3. This is how we're going to play. This is how I want it. I want it different. He kind of tried to change it. So they had to go at him that he should stop picking out his way of playing. He should adapt it to whatever game he's facing. So sometimes, because he's known for playing, 3 at the back, played maybe 5 in the middle and 2 up front. He is known for doing those changes too. And they, from Basten said and Gullit said, like, no, he should not make that out. Look, what you guys are saying, look, those are iconical guys from our country. And it's normal that they're going to say certain things about how they want the football to be played. And one thing they mentioned, and they have to know that, look, and he said it, in Holland, sometimes I ask myself, when I was playing for Holland too, I said, does the nation really want us to do well? Or do they want to see us fail? Because they were going at us sometimes. But hey, this is football, guys. You know, look, all you sitting there, you are familiar with it, and you know how it goes. When they want to go at you, they don't hold back.
But that's the very reason why they shouldn't be. You know, if
because they know what it's like.
Exactly. You know, Craig and I playing for Scotland, playing in England, we knew that if things went wrong, the Anglos, we were called Anglos, were getting the blame. And so you would kind of go out if anybody asks me about the Anglos, I kind of go out my way to avoid that. Mm-hmm. Now, there's no how Van Basten started this tirade with, he's good in the dressing room, but tactically and technically not. I mean, seriously, how can you be taken seriously, or how do you think people are not going to think you're just having an attack when you start off by saying that? I mean, that is just ridiculous. That's nonsense.
Yeah. No, look, I had my conversation with Van Basten too. So, you know, like I made it clear too how I had my debate with him when I got selected for the national team. Because Van Basten made his comment. I said to him, like, when he selected me for the national team, I made it very clear. I said, look, we need to talk first before I'm coming. Why? Because those are the kind of reasons. Sometimes Holland, we want to play a different way. I like attacking football, but I don't want to be exposed. And I think at the moment now, Van Dijk, that is the discussion he's having in his own brain, because he doesn't want his back line being exposed. And I think that is the thing that they clearly don't want to pick up in Holland, because they don't want to understand that. And the way we want to play, I get it. We want to play the beautiful football. We don't want to win games by just winning, eh? So just to make sure that everybody understands the Dutch culture, we don't want to win 1-0, 2-0 and just say like we won the game. No, we need to win the game and play the most beautiful football in the world. That's our biggest focus.
So just if I can just add, so many times we talk about Dutch national teams, the quality that they do have, and how they always seem to self-destruct. And this really leans into that. Because even if everything that Van Basten and Gullit is saying about Virgil van Dijk is absolutely true, if everything they're saying is 100% true, and you are trying to help the player, you are trying to help the national team, there's a way you phrase it.
Sure.
There are things you avoid. Gullit saying he won his award, didn't he? Yeah. I mean, I have absolutely no idea what purpose that is to serve, other than, as the boys have been saying, to frame this as an attack. It's an attack on a very talented player who's having a rough time, who comes into a national team, given the successes at the World Cup. Their mate, the new manager, changes the formation. He can't find the same passing lanes into midfield and has a little bit of an issue adjusting early on. Holland are 1-0 down after 90 seconds. They're 2 down in the 8th minute on the back of a goalkeeping error. And at that point, the entire Dutch team are like, they're caught in headlights.
Yep.
How you put that fully down to Virgil van Dijk is beyond me. And again, even if it were, and you are trying to help one of your most talented players, one of the most talented players of a generation, there's ways you say exactly that. There's ways you help him. This does nothing but, again, feeding into that Dutch self-destruction.
They just wanted a target, didn't they?
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
They wanted a target, they wanted to make a noise, they wanted to make a splash, and they needed a target. Look, he has been, and I think he'll be smarting from this, because he...
Of course he would, yeah.
Because I've noticed it with some of the criticism that he's had at Liverpool, when he's after-match interviews.
Yeah, he's bit back a bit, hasn't he?
He's bit back a little bit, and you think, all right, he's had a lot of praise, and rightly so. And he shouldered some of the blame in some sense because he's obviously the best defender they've got at Liverpool, and he is the captain. But he was smarting a little bit from it. But I think it was criticism about his performances. This is a whole new level, isn't it?
Yes.
Just nonsense.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it strikes as being very personal. Looking at Van Dijk in the big picture, as Ian mentioned, Mario, I think a couple of years ago, many would have him as the best defender in Europe. Where would you put him now? Let's get your top 5 list, shall we, of centre-backs as it stands. Where would he be on that list? You've got him in at number 5.
Yeah. Yeah, also because the reason why I put him there, it's not because I don't like Van Dijk or it's something personal. Look, I like him I think he's the best player. It's like what we just mentioned, like his journey coming into where he is. Beautiful journey, how he captured himself. Because in Holland, he wasn't highlighted as one of the top teams. Then takes his journey himself, goes to Celtic, comes to Southampton, goes to Liverpool, and then took it by storm. What a player he became. The other ones, you understand, I also look at the ones that you look at the time of now, you understand? And if I look at Rudiger, I put him as number 1 because that's one of the players that I would like to play again, next to. Because I think like he does so much work, and it's almost like you sometimes can stand next to him and just have a small cigar. It's the same what I had with Van Dijk if I would have put him at number 1 back in the days. Just a small cigar, just play easy because he does all the job. And I think that's just slightly coming down on Van Dijk. But if you're in my top 5, I still qualify you as one of the best defenders in the world. So yes, Van Dijk belongs in that group, I feel.
But I tell you what, I know he's old, but I would put above most of them, I would put Thiago Silva.
He's been the one highlight, I think, for Chelsea.
I mean, you just want out-and-out defending and reading the game. Still got good pace.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned, was it Botman yesterday? I mean, he's not at that level. He's not at that level yet, I don't think. But certainly Thiago Silva, when you're looking at defenders.
Yeah. Anyone, Stevie, else you'd chuck in there?
No, I would switch Thiago Silva with Marquinhos.
Yeah.
But I think rightly so.
What about the 2 Arsenal boys? One of them. What about Saliba?
Saliba, yeah. Well, I think if you look at this list pretty much, we're talking about a period of time. Saliba's been great this season.
Right.
So I think it's a little early to turn around and say he should be in the top 5. All of these guys, including Silva, if you put him in as well, have had a significant amount of time where you can say, without any argument, they're one of the best in Europe. So, yeah.
Where are you putting Sula?
Sula? Say what?
There's Sergio Ramos in this as well.
Where's the bin? Where's the bin?
Ian,
over there.
Ian, do you want to chuck us your 2 pennies as well?
Well, I'm surprised that you've got Antonio Rudiger at number 1 because he's had a lot of criticism around Madrid this season. I mean, yeah, if you're talking about the last few years, definitely. I mean, you wouldn't argue with Rudiger even on the telephone, would you? He's that kind of something. I wouldn't have him as number 1 this season. for sure, because I think he's had a bit of an iffy start, if I'm honest with you, with Real Madrid.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, Van Dijk, he probably is 4 or 5 at the moment. But I think over the last 4 or 5 years, he's pretty much number one.
Yes,
But
I agree.
To Ian's point, in that entire list, how many of those players over the last 2 or 3 seasons haven't come in for significant periods of criticism, including Marquinhos, probably the only one being Thiago Silva, the only one who's not been criticised over the last few years. So, listen, I sympathise with Van Dijk, the period he's going through, the criticisms that he's coming under, but we know how good a player he is. If we were starting a club right now and had to build around a centre-back, Van Dijk would most certainly be very high in that reckoning because you know how good he can be. Maybe just needs that fresh start, just some kind of a change.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.